Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our April Chit Chat. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Allison, and I am a company member with Mad Horse Theater Company. I will also be your Zoom MC for the evening. Before we jump into tonight's events, I just have a few reminders, so please forgive me for talking for just a couple moments. First, I want to say our Mad Horse Theater building is located in South Portland with company members spread out amongst the greater Portland area. And this is all Indigenous land stolen from the tribes of the Wabanaki Confederacy. On behalf of Mad Horse, I do want to acknowledge that we are working on deepening our knowledge and doing better by this history. And we encourage you to do the same and to visit native-land.ca for a comprehensive map of Indigenous lands, and to visit avemuseum.org to learn more about the Indigenous tribes of Maine or to check out the Wabanaki Reach. These are all really wonderful resources to learn more about this history of the Mainers who were here before we were. Next is our model for the night is inspired by Pecha Kucha style storytelling. So each artist you're about to meet will have approximately 7-ish minutes to talk with all of you. We are going to move from artist to artist, and then at the end, we are going to open up everything to you, our audience, for a conversation. If you have a question or thought you would like to share with any of these folks, please feel free to send it to us, or just me, your host, through the Q&A function that is at the bottom of your screen. We're going to use these questions that way to help kind of facilitate the conversation later. You can send them along at any time. You don't have to wait for the end of the evening. We will ask that folks refrain from using the chat function until we get to the discussion at the end. Sometimes it can be a little bit distracting during the evening, so we can just kind of wait till we get to the end. But again, any questions you would like to send, please send them anytime to the Q&A, and if that way we can kind of keep them separate and kind of smooth, because my brain can't always keep up. You might have noticed we are going to be recording the following portion of the evening, and we plan on making this recording available for more audiences after the weekend. If this is your first time joining us, you can visit the Mad Horse website. It's madhorse.com under virtual events, or just the Mad Horse Theater Company channel on YouTube. We have all of our videos starting back from September available at any time for anybody. Please feel free to check them out, share links. Artists are also encouraged to share the links as much as they would like to help hype all of the amazing work that they're about to share with you. We have been starting to shake things up with our chit chats a little bit in 2021. We're hosting our first one on a Saturday just to see how that goes. So thank you all for being here. We also are now featuring some panelists who are new friends we haven't met before, but also some returning panelists who talked with us a little bit back in 2020. So we're really excited to have these mixed together. We will also be following up with the best ways to follow, contact, and support all of these amazing, amazing people that you are about to meet. I'm going to say this a lot, but if you can, please support artists. We will be sharing the best ways to do that throughout the evening in our follow-up thank you emails and across our social media platforms to make sure that you have the best links to do that. But again, like, supporting artists is everything. I'm going to be saying it a lot because I can never, ever say it enough. But now, thank you for your patience. That is plenty of time spent with me. I'm going to turn this over to our panel of artists. So let's give a virtual round of applause to our very first artist of the evening, who I'm delighted is joining us for another chit chat. Seif-Allah Sollotto-Cristobal. Seif has been telling stories with designing continuously for over a decade. He holds a Master's of Fine Art in Lighting and Projection Design from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. While at UMKC, he became one of the first to study projections for performance. His career has taken him across the country and has allowed him to design for many companies in opera, dance, and theater. This includes the Umbrella Stage Company in Massachusetts, Opera Colorado, the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley, Company One, Palm Beach, Florida. The list goes on. He's done so much. Seif now teaches design at the University of Southern Maine, where he brings his knowledge and experience to help guide the next generation of storytellers. He is excited to get back to the theater this summer with shows in Maine, Massachusetts, and Indiana. Seif, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you, Allison. As Allison said, my name is Seif-Allah Sollotto-Cristobal. I am a cis man using the pronouns he and him. I am an artist of Middle Eastern, Hispanic, Lusitanic, and Filipino descent, and I am joining today from the stolen lands of the Abenaki and Pennacook tribes, both members of the Wabanaki Confederacy, on the land the colonials have named South Berwick. I acknowledge these tribes' past, present, and future claims to this land. For those who may not be able to see me tonight, I have an olive complexion, a bald head, dark eyes, and a full dark beard. This evening, I am wearing a bluish gray collared sweater. I'm excited to be back, and I want to thank Allison, Mark, and Janice for having me again. The last time I was here, I spoke about the work I do as a lighting and projection designer and the work I hope to do through the pandemic. I recognized following that presentation, however, that words can only describe so much of what a lighting and projection designer can do. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so I would like to take an opportunity and take you on a quick journey to explore with images what a lighting and projection designer does. I do want to recognize that there may be some out there who may not be able to see the upcoming imagery. Unfortunately, due to time, I will be unable to describe each individual image. However, I would be more than happy to at another time. If you contact me through my website, we can work something out. So a lighting designer can make the drab or the ordinary feel amazing or unique. A lot of what a lighting or projection designer does is to help build the world of the story, the world that the performers get to play in. Or they make sure that the performers can be seen. However, this is not all a lighting or projection designer does. We are often presented with questions or problems and need to find the best solution. Questions like, how do I make it look like we are outside at night in a small town? How do I make it feel like we're in a small, intimate club about to listen to our favorite band? How do I make a group of dancers feel like they are underground in a cave? Or make it appear that we are in an airport terminal? How do I make it feel like we are sitting in someone's dining room? Or in a small part of a much larger prison? How do I make Ariadne, Bacchus, and the nymphs appear as different beings at the same moment? How do I show how hot it is inside or how cold it is outside? How do I show love? How do I show Carmen's passion? How do I show the anguish of Judas's betrayal or the holiness of Jesus? How do I show a mother remembering the life of her late daughter? How do I show the power of a young girl standing up against bullying? How do I show freedom or the taking away of one's freedom? How do I evoke the loss of culture in post-Katrina New Orleans? How do I make horses look scary and menacing? What does Christopher see when he finds all the letters his mother has sent him that his father has been hiding? How do I show you, the audience, what Trayvon Martin really looked like? How do I express the sadness and distress of the mothers of the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints Church after their children have been taken away from them? How do I show the electrocution of a man? How do I show a ship is sinking with just the time? How do I show magic? What does the fire trial look like for Tamino and Pamina? Or the water trial? And finally, how do you show Cecilia Payne discovering that the stars are made of hydrogen? This is by no means a comprehensive representation of what a lighting or projection designer can do, but I hope it provides a glimpse into our art form. I'd like to close by providing a brief update on my work. As I mentioned the last time I was here, the pandemic has resulted in the loss of close to 15 fully produced stage productions over the last year for me. I am happy to say that a corner has turned, however, and I will be back designing this summer with 6 shows across Maine, Massachusetts, and Indiana. I was fortunate that the loss for me of work did not cause much financial distress. However, there are many colleagues of mine, designers and technicians alike across the country and the world, whose entire lives and income were upended as a result of the pandemic and shutting down theaters. Theater is a communal art form requiring the gathering of people both in the audience and on stage. Where some theatrical companies have been able to transition to virtual programming, the style of theatrical presentation has left most designers and technicians unable to contribute. So the question is, what can be done? How can people help? While money is great and financial support is always helpful, replacing that art and what it is that we've been doing for so long can only come with coming back into the theater. Ultimately, we need to get back in the theater. And to do that, we need everyone to continue to be safe in public, wear masks and social distance when appropriate, and get vaccinated if you are able. Too many designers and technicians have been out of the theater for way too long. The only way designers and technicians can come back is if the community is safe. Thank you for taking a moment to listen.
Oh, Seif, gosh, thank you. Those designs that you did share were amazing. I did instantly start crying at your shot from Parade. That show breaks my heart, and I knew exactly which moment that was based on the image you showed. So thank you. Everybody, please keep checking out Seif's work. Follow along with these adventures of his that are coming up. You really don't want to miss out. The best way to do that is to visit his website. It is www.seif.design. So that's SEIF.design. And again, we will make sure that it's all there in the follow-up materials, but you definitely you can go check out more. There's more details about all of those things. You don't want to miss it. And I cannot stress it enough. It's absolutely incredible. So thank you again, Seif, so much. Our second presenters of the evening are some wonderful friends, Arande Krueger and Catherine Buxton from Speak About It. Speak About It is a consent education and sexual assault prevention nonprofit based in Portland, Maine. They bring performance-based programs to students across the country and empower them to give and get consent, build healthy relationships, and make change in their communities. Oronde has worked as a Speak About It educator for years before being promoted to program coordinator and then program manager. Oronde graduated with a degree in neuroscience, amazing, from Bowdoin College, where he studied learning and memory along with hormones and behavior. His background, mixed with his deep love for facilitating difficult discussions, has served him well working with young folks trying to better understand the complexities of intimacy. His experience helped to inform his 2018 TED Talk, which I will share the link to later, don't you worry, about redefining masculinity and the importance of vulnerability in the process. And Arande has found a home in Portland, Maine, and is the proud co-founder of Heart of Hospitality, a coalition of violence prevention groups and service industry professionals dedicated to improving the safety of venues across the state. Thank you, Catherine and Arande, so much for joining us tonight. I'm handing it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. And hello, everyone. It's so weird to like not see faces, just to have the boxes, but I trust that there's people there.
There are.
Yeah. I'm Arande. You see him, his for my pronouns.
I'm Catherine. I use she, her pronouns.
Yeah. And we together, with our powers combined, and also Ella's powers, we are Speak About It. And what is Speak About It? Here, we're gonna share a little slideshow. There we go. So Speak About It does theater-based consent education. We're based out of Portland, Maine, but we actually really don't talk to Portland audiences super often, especially not Portland theater audiences. And so this is really cool to have this. So thank you again to Mad Horse for letting us share a little bit of who we are. We use performance and dialogue to try to educate high school and college students about consent and sexual assault prevention. We're founded by students and for students at Bowdoin College, and it's bananas to say, but we just had our 10-year anniversary and we've talked to almost 500,000 students across the country, which is wild.
That is truly wild.
Yeah, absolutely wild.
That is 500,000.
Yeah.
That's so many.
That's math for you.
That's math for you. So almost 500,000 people have seen our flagship show, which was our first program. It's a 5-person performance written from the stories of college students across the country. And over the years, we've evolved from just doing that show to also doing a variety of other programs, including programs for parents and programs for teachers. Allison mentioned the anti-harassment and anti-bias programs for bars and restaurants that Oronde worked on as well. And because it's been 2020 for over a year now, will never end. We also unexpectedly developed a whole slate of digital programs this year, from Instagram live chat shows to cyber sex ed seminars, which are super fun, to even filming a digital show this year, which we've been very fortunate to bring to schools.
Which, and just to like tease, Ella Mock is in all of these, who you're going to hear from later, and they are a marvelous educator, and I'm so excited to hear their presentation.
So true, so true. What's the next slide?
Who knows?
Oh, I don't want to reveal our secrets. We're going to stay on this slide.
So we use theater because it's an amazing tool for empathy building, and we probably don't need to make that hard sell for you, theater audiences, but I guarantee you it's a much harder sell for other audiences. Arande and I just did a whole presentation last week on why theater is a good tool. I think we sold them. Yeah,
we sold them enough.
Yeah, we did. But if you want some science to back up why theater is a good empathy building tool, Arande Krueger is going to come in hot with some science.
So, and this is what we accidentally revealed early, all the fun science. So scientists have actually mapped some of the neurological pathways that are activated when people are both performing and watching a play. And the research all kind of centers around mirror neurons, which you can see on the screen there, which are really important pieces of our empathetic social responses to other humans. So for example, there's some really cool research that shows that the same neurons are activated when you're watching a person smile as when you're actually smiling yourself. Yeah, and that like it can even give you some of the same like feelings and therefore benefits associated with smiling, which is really cool. So similarly, witnessing a character in a TV show or a play or something, just any visual medium like that, you can really start to develop a framework for how you would handle that situation if you ever found yourself in a similar one. So when you allow any group of neurons to start to form a connection to any particular stimulus, that's learning, right? Like you're beginning to teach yourself what responses are appropriate in those situations. It's the basis of why children mimic everything that they see in their environment as they're starting to like piece together how they interact with the world and what is appropriate. And it's actually a really key piece to why representation is really important and why it's important to avoid the concept of erasure, which we're gonna, I think, talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. Cool. I'm gonna flip our slides. So because scientifically proven theater builds empathy, it's also a great venue for violence prevention. When we talk about violence prevention in our context, we're educators, so we're talking about teaching the skills to young people, all people, to make sure that they don't even get on the precipice of enacting violence in the first place. So these consent and communication skills. Violence is a dehumanizing process. And so we, as Speak About It, as educators, want to be teaching people how to talk to each other, how to hear each other's boundaries and desires, and to see each other as full humans. So empathy creates this shared understanding of differences, which is
so vital in violence prevention because we can help to empathize with people, survivors, victims of violence, but it's also key empathy in the aftermath of violence, to be able to hear and understand what someone's gone through and to work towards healing and repairing individual relationships, but also community. And so empathy is so central in that.
Yeah, and I think one of the critical pieces of like repairing community is really being able to like find ways to connect, right? And in order to find those ways to connect, using theater as this tool, right? To like see and examine the world as it is in all of its complexities is really beautiful and really important. And when you can start to map some of yourself onto what you're seeing, you can more easily imagine yourself like in that and learning alongside those characters and interacting with folks of maybe of different backgrounds. And so that brings us to representation, right? So representing the lived diversity of experiences that we see in the world around us. The world as it is does not have a singular narrative, right? It does not have one singular point of view. And so it's really important to try to represent many different identities and experiences across gender, across race, across class, across all these different experiences, across all these different identities. Because when you do that, it increases the likelihood that someone in your audience is going to see their narrative reflected back at them and be able to like really connect in a different and more deep and meaningful way.
Yeah.
And so it is probably important to say that representation isn't just like putting people with different identities on stage because you're like trying to like fill a quota. You're like mad that like the kids are going to be mad at you, right? That it's empty if it isn't thoughtful, right? And so you want to make sure that's thoughtful, that it's intentional, that it's created with the lived experiences of like silenced or marginalized people in mind, and better yet, maybe written by or led by people that have traditionally been silenced or marginalized. So you really want as many voices as possible like involved in the room. And I guess the last thing that I'm going to say on this is that representation is really important because it kind of forces you to ask the question of like, who is here, right? And once you know who is in the room, right, and who's present, you can start looking for who isn't in the room and who isn't present and try to find ways to include them. And that's something that we feel like we ask ourselves a lot in our programming. Whose voice is missing in this?
And thinking about this is some beautiful photographs of our educators.
I miss when I could be that close to people.
What a dream. But speaking of representation, I think that's why we champion first-person storytelling so much. Arande talked about how theater can be used to feel seen ourselves, but it's also a tool for seeing and understanding others. And that's why we fill our shows with, you know, monologues from students about all sorts of topics. And these monologues, they're true. And so they're complicated, they're messy, and they're unique to the teller and the teller's specific experiences. I think a really important part of empathy building is complicating existing narratives. To put a little science into this, our brains are wired to be empathetic, but they're at the same time wired to be efficient. So to be human. So we have the ability to take lots of information, stories, and draw a simple conclusion in order to categorize and compartmentalize and then move on. But in order to have safe and consensual and healthy relationships, in order to do something as complicated as have sex with another person or just be in community with people who are different than you, we need to be seeing other people as complicated, as unique, as their own dynamic selves. And theater and storytelling can be a great way to complicate, to turn the light on, to, you know, reference our last presenter's presentation, to help people see details, to learn how to see them as fully human, to get in the murk with them. And so in conclusion, it can be a great way to teach consent, to teach sex ed.
Yeah. And so that's like our like very little quick introduction to our philosophy, and please feel free to talk to us at some point. We're happy to tell you more. And yeah, we really look at this with all of our educational programs. We wanted to leave with some like concrete things for folks to be thinking about as they're moving into their like various theatrical endeavors. And so these are things that we oftentimes think about. So is the work telling like a complicated dynamic narrative, or is it trying to like challenge a harmful stereotype? I think that one's really huge because when you are not exposed to various groups, sometimes just that theatrical piece, that might be your only idea of what this identity or this experience looks like. And so being really aware of stereotypes is so important. Trying to ask, what are people going to be leaving with, right? So like, what exactly are you trying to do or what is the message that you hope that people take from this is a really important question as well. And I won't read all of them to you or talk about them, but they're there. And so, yeah, I just want to say again, thank you so much for giving us the time and the space. And we look forward to the question part at the end, because I hate when I just talk at people and love dialogue.
Such an educator. I will leave this up for a second. This is how you can reach out to us. We'll put that in the chat. But yeah, thanks for having us, friends.
Thanks, friendos.
Bye.
Oh, thank you both. Oh my gosh. I love your point of remembering to see other humans as complicated beings. It's like such a simple concept that I think a lot of us forget about really easily. So like I just loved it, and everything that you were saying. So again, friends, we will make sure that we share all of the Speak About It information and best ways to follow along, because you definitely want to, because this work is so wonderful and exciting and important. So Catherine and Arande,
Thank you so much.
Happy you were here with us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah. So yeah, again, for everybody, you want to go to www.wespeakaboutit.org. You can follow them across all social media platforms at @We Speak About It. Again, we will share all of that follow-up information. I'm also going to share Arande's TED Talk, so you can check it out. I listened to it earlier, and it's just amazing. Arande, thank you for hosting that. It was so great. So folks, you definitely want to check it out. And I will also share his website for Heart of Hospitality. So it's heartofhospitality.me. We'll share that link as well. You want to check all of those out. And as they kind of helped remind us, if you have any other questions and thoughts are coming up throughout the evening, please feel free to send them through the Q&A function at any time. You don't have to wait until the end. We're already getting some great complex discussion points going on that just make me so excited. So feel free to just send them whenever you would like. But for now, let me introduce our third artist of the evening, Jerrett Melendez. Jerrett is a Boston-based food and comic book writer. He is a regular contributor to Food 52 and Bon Appetit, and loves to talk about food. Don't we all? He has worked on Murder Hobo, Chaotic Neutral, the Ringo-nominated anthology, All We Ever Wanted, Sergeant Werewolf, Full Bleed, and Young Men in Love. Jerrett is the writer and co-creator of Chef's Kiss by Ani Press, which is a queer kitchen romance and a comic-style cookbook called The Comic Kitchen, which I'm so excited for you to talk about, my friend. He is currently writing a graphic memoir and a middle-grade fantasy adventure, and he lives in Somerville, Massachusetts with his partner Stuart and their collection of plush pigs. Jerrett, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. Gosh, thanks for having me. Thanks for that introduction. I sort of struggled with what to talk about on this for a little bit, but I ended up landing on walking through the process of creating a comic. So like Allison said in my intro, Chef's Kiss is a book that I have coming out next year. And it is a queer kitchen romance. And it started out with an idea. Just like any kind of creative endeavor, you have some idea, and my very basic idea was I would like to write a comic book that is gay, romantic, and has something to do with food. That was it. That was my seed, so to say. And from there, you kind of build out, okay, who's in this? And for this book, my main character is named Ben Cook. Who's in this? Your main character, for this it's a romance, so the romantic interest, of course, and then any sort of other characters, supporting characters, characters that maybe create conflict, and from there you kind of decide, okay, it's a romance, so the ending probably going to be something, maybe a couple starting or something like that, or maybe even a marriage. And so you start to kind of build an outline from that. I was very lucky because I got a beautiful co-creator named Danica Brine, and she and I talked through the idea of this for months before I actually sat down and started really writing it. So you come up with your outline, your beginning, middle, and end, all the driving action and everything like that. Just kind of beat for beat, like a full page of like, this is exactly what happens in the book. From there, at that point, you've got all of your characters picked out, hopefully named, and you kind of build out bios, like what is everyone's motivation in this story? And it doesn't have to have anything to do necessarily with like the main plot, but you know, you kind of want to have an idea of like where every character is coming from so that you can kind of develop their voice. From there, I hand things over to my co-creator, and she starts doing character designs, and you're going to see some of those coming up in a couple of minutes. And you know, we kind of go back and forth, and it's very collaborative, or at least I try to be very collaborative, you know, and I put a lot of trust in her to come up with beautiful designs, and she absolutely did. And from there, I start writing a script. It's not unlike a script for stage performances or film or TV. It's a little bit different because for every single page, you have to pick how many panels go on that page, and then describe exactly what happens in each of those panels. And from there, you write all the dialogue. And like, it sounds simple, but pacing a comic can be really tricky because there's so many different things you have to kind of keep in mind. How much dialogue is going to go in each panel, because you don't want to have too much, because otherwise you cover up all the art. You have to keep in mind page turns, which is something that I struggled with at first, because if you have anything like kind of exciting to reveal in a comic, it's not like in TV or film where you cut away and, oh, here's the thing all of a sudden. For a comic, it's kind of like, hey, you flip that page and it's like, oh, here's the exciting thing that's about to happen. So keeping in mind page turns is something that's kind of always got to be in the back of your head for comics. From there, since we were pitching this to publishers, we came up with some sample pages. I think Danica drew 4 to 6, which is pretty standard in comics. And how that goes is she will take my panel descriptions and then lay out a page. So say something has 5 panels and she just goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll do kind of like very simple sketches to kind of show like, here are the angles, and it's sort of like storyboarding, setting up shots for film and TV. And from there, unless there are any changes have to be made, she'll go back and redo some parts, or like change an angle here, or maybe we want to emphasize a panel more than a different one, so we'll kind of shrink that down and expand the other. Otherwise, once pencils are done, she inks over the lines, and then we send that over to our colorist, who's Hank Jones. He colors everything, and if anything needs to get changed, we make those changes. And then once that's all finalized, we send it over to a letterer, and that's the person that puts in all of the word balloons and any kind of sound effects or anything like that. So once we have our sample pages, we can start building our pitch document. The pitch document includes that outline from the beginning, usually 1 page. If you have a full script, that's great, but not everybody requires that. And then any kind of other assets like art, character designs and sketches, and of course those sample pages. You send those over to an editor, and they will let you know one way or the other if they want to pick up that pitch. And then from there, you start working directly with that editor if they pick it up. And it's a very, very long process. If they have any edits for the script, those all have to get done before art gets started on. And then you just go. And I think we started this book probably 4 years ago is when I wrote the script. From there, it took a bit to kind of like pitch it around, and once it got accepted, it took a bit to negotiate contracts. It's a much longer process than I think anybody might expect, but it's extremely rewarding. We're just about done with everything, which is insane, because it feels like all of a sudden it all went by so quickly. And it's crazy to think that we're almost done. And speaking of done, I'm going to show you some pages of our book. So from a goofy little notebook just like this, and a very, very basic idea, we ended up with something really beautiful, I think. And so this is the first page from our book. So for this, this is what we call a splash page, because it's one full page. So one panel for the whole thing, which is a pretty effective way to kind of set up a scene in comics. And this is the work of me, Danica, our colorist Hank, our letterer Hassan, and 2 editors, Robin and Grace. And I'm pretty proud of this, I have to say. It's more beautiful than I think I had even expected. You know, for my part, it's just a lot of like sitting behind a laptop and just typing words, and to see those words come to life in this fashion is kind of a dream come true. Like Allison said, I'm also working on a cookbook, which I would also love to show. That is the exact same process. Sorry about the slowness here. Exact same process, except for this, because it's showing cooking steps, you know, it's laid out a bit differently. We really wanted to show all of the different steps as clearly as possible. This happens to be my family recipe for carnitas, which is one of the first recipes that we had illustrated for the book. So that is everything I have to say about the process of making comics. It's a pretty short, makes it seem like it's a lot faster work than it is. Most of the burden of labor definitely ends up on the artist, because it is a long process. But if you want any more detailed information, you're more than welcome to contact me on any of my social media. I also have a Patreon that talks about different processes for both recipe development and comic process, and how to pitch and all that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty sure that's just about my time. So I just want to thank you all for listening to me. And thank you for being so supportive and great. And yeah, that's it from me, I think.
Thanks, Jerrett. Oh, I'm so excited about all of these things. It looks so cool. Yeah, so friends, you definitely you want to visit his website. It's jerrettmelendez.bigcartel.com. Also on Instagram at, I don't know if I'm going to say it technically right, Jerrett, but it's like Jammermel, if you would put it all together.
Yep, it's my the first syllable of my first, middle, and last name.
Yeah, and again, like we'll send all those links. You can also everybody, because again, I'm support artists, go check out Jerrett's Patreon. So it's patreon.com/Jerrett Melendez. And it's a great way to also just see everything and kind of keep track of everything. And Jerrett's also going to be having a Kickstarter coming up for this comic cookbook. It's launching around April 27th. And the best way to follow along is on Instagram. So go hit that follow button. We'll make sure all the links are included in the follow-up materials, both in our emails and social media. But you're gonna want to follow along. I'm so excited already. I was so eager for those sneak peeks. So thank you so much for sharing those.
Absolutely,
And I'm
thank
really
you.
happy you're here with us. But I'll transition now to our fourth artist of the evening. It's another familiar chit chat face who's been seen around Mad Horse. Ella Mock is an actor, intimacy choreographer, and sex and consent educator. They are into clown, folklore, gender performance, being a squeaky wheel, and trying to grow a good tomato. Oh, Ella, yes, that's kind of hard sometimes. And also an educator with Speak About It. So I'm super psyched to have that overlap here. Ella, thank you so much for being with us again.
For having me. So yeah, my name is Ella. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am currently colonizing the unceded territory of the Eno, Shakori, and Sakura peoples in so-called Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It's really hot here right now. Just a bit of a content note, I'm going to be talking about some personal mental health journey stuff. I'm okay. I'm in therapy right now. Please don't sit there worrying about me. Okay, so I sat down to write like what I was going to talk about today, and the thing I was going to write just wasn't coming. So I decided I'm going to talk about the thing that is at the front of my mind right now, which is what is going on with high school theater programs. High school theater is like incredibly messed up. We are asking literal children to act out like adult traumas and relationships and giving them zero support, and then grading them on that work, and then telling them to like compete with each other on that work. We are teaching the youngest members of our community and our industry some really messed up culture. Like, if anyone here has participated in a one-act play festival, it is literally hell. It's like a bunch of kids, a bunch of high schoolers. It's mostly seniors, a few juniors, maybe a sophomore or a freshman, but all the juniors and seniors will hate the sophomore and the freshman because it's only supposed to be upperclassmen. It's a whole drama. They're literally competing with other schools to try and tell the most tragic story possible. Comedies never win. Everybody knows when you go into one act, comedies never win. They're just like, we would go and we'd know, okay, that school is our biggest competition, and we'd know that they were doing a comedy or something that wasn't like horribly traumatic in its story, and we'd be like, oh, we got this, we're good. It's nuts. So like, I was a really sad kid. I turned 13 and my serotonin like took the kids and left. There was nothing in there. I was not okay, and I had no one to talk to about it because my therapy sessions as a child were not confidential, and my parents were pretty constantly like one discovery of like emo Tumblr poetry away from upping my medication at all times. But I knew from the time I was really little that I wanted to be an actor. We had like the 2 cassette tapes of the entire show of Les Miserables, and I would listen to them all the time. I had the whole first act memorized by the time I was like 10. For some reason, the second act didn't do it for me as much. Please don't judge my 10-year-old self. So I took it as soon as it was an elective. And like, I realized around the time I started getting really sad that acting didn't just have to be a passion, it was a get out of jail free card. For some duration of time, an hour, a couple of hours, I could be called someone else's name. I could have someone else's problems and think with somebody else's maybe chemically balanced better brain. And the weird thing was, the more harm, the more hurt that the character was dealing with in the situation of the play, the heavier the role, the easier it was to step out of myself and fully step into that character. I could put all these micro fears, all these micro hurts that I was feeling throughout the day into this like concentrated hour, into these few charged scenes. And I could scream and cry and express my rage and my sorrow in all the ways that were unacceptable at home, and all the ways that if I did them at home would result in some kind of punishment or judgment. Um, when I was in high school, something that we would do before going on stage is we would ask our scene partners to slap us across the face. That was a common thing that happened. We talked to other schools, that was a thing that they did too. And for me, that meant that I might go home and not feel like wanting to hurt myself that day. It was a way to get it out. It wasn't healthy at all. I know that now, but that's one of the reasons that theater became so integral to my life, was it was a place I could funnel all of these coping mechanisms that like I didn't know how to use in a healthy way. However, it meant that it was really, really easy to ignore the messed up culture around me in high school theater. It meant that I ignored any actual harm that happened on stage. We did a Midsummer Night's Dream, and for the fight choreography, the teachers just told us like, just go for it, just give it a try. And we hurt each other. We like legitimately pulled each other's hair and like pushed each other to the ground. And I never thought for 1 second that that wasn't how it was done, or that wasn't supposed to be how it was done, because ultimately we were doing it with passion. We were in character. We were putting our whole selves into it. And I really thought that that was like the big thing, was that disappearing into your character, not being present yourself, that was a mark of a good actor, that losing control was a mark of a good actor. Like, when you think of most plays that are being done by high school students, when you think of most plays that exist, is it actually possible for children to relate to these characters? Like, is a 17-year-old gonna be a convincing Willy Loman or like whatever play they're doing? No, of course they're not. We're really setting kids up with an impossible task of putting them in these adult shoes and putting them in these dramatic situations. And so often there's like no, what's the word? There's like no budget to bring in any extra assistance for those kids' mental health, any sort of choreography, anything like that. So who is telling kids like how to handle all of that, how to hold all that, and how to leave it behind at the end of the day? To dig into it, I'm going to tell y'all a story, an experience that I had in high school that really shaped the artist I am and was a reason I got into intimacy choreography. In this section, I'm going to be talking a bit about violence and sexuality. So we did the musical Jekyll and Hyde because we had some big donors who wanted big musicals every year. I was cast as Lucy, who is a sex worker who falls in love with Dr. Jekyll and is abused and murdered by Mr. Hyde, because that's something that you cast a 16-year-old to do, apparently. It was a lead, so I was thrilled. There was no part of me that was like, this is inappropriate or this is wrong. I was just beyond pumped to have the opportunity. The first number of the show that Lucy sings is like this cabaret song called Bring On the Men. Again, I was 16. I had experienced like a fraction of the sex at that point. That was like not a part of my life at all. One of the tech director actually asked me to buy one of those Wonder Bras that were really big in like the early 2010s, the like 2-cup sizers, which I wore with a corset, which was great because I had a really unhealthy relationship with my body at the time. So that was a fun shape to put my body in at 16. I was told by the musical director, the music director, I mean, that I sounded like a virgin when I was singing these songs of a very like sexually active grown woman. And I was doing these really like sexy dance numbers. And I was doing this all with the body and the brain of a depressed, sexually inactive child. No one ever told me like, try to be confident or try to have fun or anything that could possibly contextualize that experience for me. It was just like, be sexy, and who knows what that adjective even means. Another fun thing was that my understudy was dating the guy who played Jekyll/Hyde. So for every single rehearsal that the two of us had with one another, she sat and watched to learn our choreography, and she stared daggers at the both of us. It was so uncomfortable. And the guy who played Jekyll/Hyde, he would barely touch me because she was in the room. He would like really lightly put his hands down my arm, or like just with the very tips of his fingers touch my waist. It was very, very clear that there was some tension in that relationship, and very awkward to be in the middle of. No one helped us navigate that. That was not something that any adult felt equipped to help us out with. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, she's just not being professional. She's taking this personally. She's not children, 16 years old. She's not being professional because she doesn't know how to handle these emotions. That's where we were. So we get to opening night. The first sexy little duet that Hyde and Lucy have is a song called Dangerous Game. And suddenly everything is different. His girlfriend isn't there watching anymore. And I feel his fingers digging into my arms. He's grabbing me with force around my waist. And where in rehearsals we were like lightly swaying, he is fully like pushing and pulling my body back and forth. And I catch myself slipping out of character. I catch myself worrying, oh my God, my dad's in the audience. Or like, oh my gosh, who's seeing this right now? Or like, ooh, I feel uncomfortable. Or I feel ashamed because I'm like being touched in front of people. And then that voice came up again that said, this isn't professional. You're not thinking professionally right now. You're taking this personal. And so I dug further into the character and further away from myself. I tried so hard to push my own voice out in that moment. And then I found out that the character was actually more afraid in that moment than I was. And I kept singing, but slowly I just wasn't in my body anymore. I was sinking down deeper and deeper to where like I couldn't feel his touch, to where I couldn't see the audience. I just went down as deep as I could. And the song ended and I ran off stage like I was supposed to, but then I didn't stop running. I could not stop running. I tripped and I fell in the wings, and I still have a scar on my shin from whatever it was I fell against. My castmates had to physically stop me and get me back to the dressing room to change my costumes. And I was panicking, but the entire time there was that voice that said, be professional, don't be late for your next song. You gotta show up for your next song. So we get closer to the end of the show. Remember, he kills me at the end. And I was wondering, wow, what is that death scene gonna look like? Is he gonna stick to the choreography? And I'm steeling myself to remember, like, okay, whatever he does, you just gotta play dead. Whatever he does, you have to be like a convincing dead body on the stage. And the death itself was okay, to his merit, that went fine. But then there was a bit at the end where he was supposed to kick me down these stairs, which meant he nudged his foot against my side and I would roll myself down the 3 stairs. They were kicks. They were full kicks. One landed in my stomach, which thankfully I was still wearing that corset, so that kept me nice and protected. Same for in the side. But then his last kick landed right between my legs. And when I got home, after some fervent Googling, I realized that that kick had resulted in my very first hymen tear. And I'm not gonna lie, I still don't know what to call that. And I don't know how to feel about that. It was something that I immediately joked about because that's usually how I metabolize hurt personally, is I joke about things. And that's something that I still do to today. But I remember everyone telling us what great jobs we did. And I remember thinking that he did such a great job because he was lost in his role, because he lost control, just like we were supposed to. And I couldn't criticize him without giving up my coping mechanism. And I knew that I had done a good job because I was hurting, you know, because I had these bruises, because I was bleeding, because that's what we're taught, is that great actors get hurt doing their work well. And everyone tells us how good the work is that we're doing because it hurts us. And it hurts us over and over and over again. And it took me years to learn that I did not have to hurt to do a good job, that I didn't have to feel actual pain, that bruises and scars are not a measure of passion or professionalism. And even now, I find myself second guessing performances if I feel okay afterward. Like, oh no, was I not connected to the character? Did I look like I was faking it because I don't feel in pain after the show? And I realize now that this is probably linked to a deep fear of being seen, me, actually myself. I'm most comfortable when I'm sort of behind someone else, which is another reason I got into performance so quickly, was because I could just be behind my character, be seen, but not really. The first time I ever called hold in a rehearsal was a really big deal. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Another character died on the ground near my feet and was supposed to grab my boot for his last words. And it was this really dramatic moment. And then he lets go of my boot and he dies. The director was someone I worked with a few times and trusted. And they told him not to let go of my boot without telling me. And it happened. And I didn't know what was happening. I was trying to shake his hand off my boot without hurting him, and I could feel his fingers through my docks. He was holding on so tight. I don't know what happened, and I don't have to justify my reaction, but I did panic. I called hold, and the director said, "No, keep going. It's so good." I called hold again, and I explained the situation, and no one understood what the problem was, so we just moved on. Later, the director asked me privately to clarify what had happened. Like, oh, did I have some trauma around having my foot grabbed? Or was that a hard boundary? And do I never want my foot grabbed again? Like, no, it just happened and it was unexpected and I didn't like it. So I called hold. And they said, okay, just try to stay in character next time. I can't fault people who have experienced like the same programming that I have. They were operating with the exact same set of values when it comes to performance. And so many of us are. Like, how many of us who are artists need to feel emotionally riled by our work or need to see our audiences emotionally riled in response to it? We're always like, make them cry, make them laugh, make them change. We really depend upon a commerce of pain in a lot of ways. And none of this is inherently bad. You know, nothing is inherently good or bad, or maybe it is. I don't know. Only Seif deals in absolutes or something like that. My big question to you tonight, and what I will end with, is how do we flip that on its head every now and then? Like, what do we need to do as artists to feel less attached to pain as a medium? And when a necessary story is painful, and so many necessary stories are painful, how are we caring for one another? Not just with acute choreography, not just a check-in at the top of rehearsal, but can we build a culture of co-regulation that means we have hard conversations, we ask for what we need, we protect one another's boundaries, and we show up fully ourselves to be seen? I really wish I could see you all now, but I'd like us to think just for a moment, of something you're really looking forward to move us forward and move us through this lovely evening. So just grab that moment, something you're really looking forward to, and breathe in and breathe out. Thank you so much.
Ella, thank you. Thank you for sharing such a personal story. You're so not alone in that experience, which is a very another big can of worms to unpack. But your story does right now make me, I just want to acknowledge how honored I feel to be sharing this Zoom space with so many fellow educators. In particular, we're in a Zoom of educators who are consciously working to be changing these circumstances for both young and adult artists. So yeah, thank you for sharing that and shedding light. That's hard to talk about, but it's so necessary. But everybody, you can follow Ella on the social medias. You can follow them on Instagram. It's at heck.support, and you can and should support them via Venmo. It's eMockery. And again, we will share all of these links. And then Ella is actually working on a virtual event right now. It's called The Show Must Go Online. I'm so afraid I'm gonna get the pronunciation wrong on this. So Ella, please feel free to jump in and correct me. Is it John Liley's?
Yeah, John Lilly's Galatea.
Thank you. I was like, I don't want to say, I feel so bad when I mispronounce something.
You're good. It's like a play from the 1500s, so nobody who cares is alive.
Thank you. But it's going to be streaming on YouTube starting on April 21st. There's going to be a live performance at 2 p.m. our time that day and at 7 p.m. for any friends who are joining us from Great Britain. And if you are joining us from Great Britain, hello and welcome. That's awesome. And we will be sharing, again, all of these details in the follow-up material. Seen some things popping up in the Q&As in the chat. So just a reminder, you can send questions at any point. We still have 2 more artists to get through, so I'm going to move us right along to our 5th artist this evening is Kifah Abdulla. Kifah is an artist, poet, writer, teacher, performer, and activist, born and raised in Baghdad, Iraq. He completed a bachelor's degree in biology at the University of Baghdad. Abdullah spent over 8 years as a prisoner of war in Iran and 21 years as a refugee. He is the Arabic teacher at Southern Maine Community College and the language exchange, the Arabic calligraphy teacher at Maine College of Art. Abdullah has published his first book of poetry, Dead Still Dream, in Portland in 2016, and a novel memoir, Mountains Without Peaks, in 2020, which I actually just ordered and I'm super excited to read. He was a member of the Portland Public Art Committee, performed his live poetry and music at WMPG, is the co-founder of First Arabic Learner Project and website in Maine. He's a mentor of the young writers and leaders with the Telling Room, and he's the founder of the first International Arabic Language Festival in Portland. Abdullah is involved in many cultural and artistic projects, and he reads his poetry and storytelling with the music. I'm like so afraid of, you can hop in, Kifah, I'm saying it wrong, the oud and cello in different events, and he has exhibited in many galleries in Maine. Kifah, thank you so much for joining our chit chat tonight. I'm so delighted to have you with us.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Hi, everyone. I'm so pleased to have a presentation tonight, the Artist Chit Chat, hosted by Mad Horse Theater Company. So I would like to share with you and talk about my Rebel project. I say rebel as a verb, that means take action. And it's different than to be an adjective to say like, I'm a rebel. Rebel Arts Project, and also that I would like to talk, if I have a time, about modern Arabic calligraphy and abstraction. I have started Rebel project in October 2019. I have been inspired by social and many environmental issues. Rebel Take Action, a art project, where I use art as a medium to talk about many social and environmental problems. It is an open project, and I would like to invite anyone interested in collaborating, sharing, to be part of this project, artists, people like from different art fields. I also practiced, and unfortunately because of the pandemic, we had a plan that a dancer, a flamenco dancer, and while I painting about the social and environmental issues. So I made t-shirts, Rebel t-shirts in English and Arabic. So it's to help, to support and fund this big project. And I would I have honestly, that two plans. First one that to make different Rebel t-shirts in different languages, like Spanish, French, Italian, Chinese, what else? The second, I would love, and I have a plan also that for this project to be a movement that to introduce art and the activism. I would love to see that the activists to be creative activists. So like painters, musicians, poets, writers, dancers, photographers, etc. So you can contact me, you can reach me if you are interested, and hope to hear from you to talk about this project more in details. My message from Rebel Take Action project is not to bring awareness, but to take action, to take a good action. Without a good action, change will never happen. So, for example, I focus first about that people's emotions. I say if you have fear, it is very easy, like you can put your fear on canvas or paper or anything. If you are angry, so also that you can put your anger on canvas by making art. It is really wonderful. It's like a health process. A health process by converting the negative energy to be positive. Imagine that when someone has fear or angry, and then just to do this action. So here is wonderful that I use different materials to make art. It's not just the brushes. So I use, for instance, shoes. Have you heard about the throwing shoes? So I dip the shoes in colors and I throw them on canvas. So to see that, I hope from this action that to convert the negative energy to be positive when someone sees like his anger or fear, how it looks like to be on canvas as an art. One of the biggest problem that I would like to focus about mass shooting, this social problem, it have become as an epidemic disease in America. When I started the Rebel Project in 2019, was the highest number of mass shooting that time. And now again, this time, just in 1 month, we have 9 mass shootings. So I make art to focus on this problem. And I would love to see people to take action. Is not just like to bring awareness about this project. So I use shoes. I talk about the human rights, the women rights, the children's rights. If I want to talk about the women rights, so I use the women's shoes. I dip them in color and then throw them on canvas. By the way, I'm working on the very large scale painting. If you visit my website, you can see that some of these works. Also, if I want to talk about that, I say save the children or that children's rights, I use like children's shoes to make art or to bring awareness about this theme. I also use calligraphy. I use the Arabic calligraphy to talk about this. Racism, also that I have painting and I have installations, and I'm going to work on sculptures to focus on this bigger problem in our culture. So all these issues like inspired me to make art. I use this project in different materials. By the way, I use anything to make it as art. Making art is easy. It's not a difficult project or it doesn't cost like too much money. I use, for instance, like tools in your house, like brooms, whippers. I use even blanchers to make art. I use shoes to make art, but also that this is about the social problems. I also focus on the environmental issues. It's very important that I focus on that plastic and air pollution. Imagine this is true, research and scientific research. In 2050, we will have more plastic than fish in the water if we don't take a good action or the right action. So this is that about when I talk about the environment. I also use a very interesting tool. I use used car tires. The same thing, I dip them in color, then I push them on canvas. I also, if you follow me and go to my website, you can see that very large painting. It's about by using used car tires. I use, like a garbage, plastic garbage, just the same thing like shoes. I dip them in color and then I throw them on canvas. So one of my goals here from this project to show the powerful role of art and artists in making changes in their communities. So this is about the Rebel Art project. It is an educational and healing process by using art and by converting negative energy into positive. I would love and I hope that to hear from anyone would like to be part of this project. So we can group work on by introducing art in that way. The second thing I would like to talk about the Arabic calligraphy. I use modern Arabic calligraphy and the classic as an art form in abstraction. So this is maybe the first one here in America to use this style. I say like my calligraphy is different than the classic Arabic calligraphy. Sometimes I call them that rebel Arabic calligraphy. So imagine that we have in America and around the world, many artists use a kind of calligraphy in their art. For instance, like American artists Franz Klein and Cy Twombly and Melissa Miller and even Bryce Marden. Also that the Switzerland and I think German artist Paul Klee, and even Picasso one time said the beautiful words about the Arabic calligraphy. And also that I say that I mentioned that I use Arabic calligraphy in Rebel, the project. So I would like to finish my time. I hope that not to be more than 7 minutes. So Picasso once said about Arabic calligraphy, if I had none, there was such a thing as Islamic calligraphy, I would never have started to paint. I have strived to reach the highest levels of artistic mastery. And I found that Islamic calligraphy was there ages before I was. So thank you so much for your patience. And please, if you are interested, just like you can send me an email, or you can just like visit my website and see some of my works. Thank you so much.
Oh, Kifa, thank you. I'm so delighted that you are here with us. Thank you for sharing more about your work. Yeah, everybody, please go check out his website. Kifa's work is beautiful. I was being a fangirl and just looking at it all morning because it's just amazing. So it's www.kifahabdulla.com. Again, we will make sure that you get all this to you. You can also follow him on Instagram at Kifah Abdulla, and you can connect via Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. We'll make sure we send all of that to you, the best ways to connect with him, especially on this project. It sounds amazing. And if you visit Kifah's website under art/activism, you can donate towards the Rebel Project. So again, like support artists. This project is so cool. So if you can, please check it out. Kifah's also recently partnered with Little Chair Printing for the Rebel t-shirts. You want to check out that website too. As soon as Kifah mentioned it, I went to it and I was just like, how did I not know this? I feel so silly that I didn't know this organization was right here in Portland. And the printing is amazing. It's littlechairprinting.com. We're going to make sure that gets sent to you as well. Please go check it all out. It's so great. Have those like fingers ready to click on everything. So Kifah, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Questions are starting to roll in, so you can send some more along. We do have one more section of this evening. I'm so delighted to have Nate Lapointe and DJ Matt Perry in the house to finish us off. So Nate is born in Florida, raised in Arizona and Maine. So Nathan, AKA Unique Unknown, found his creative roots in Van Buren, Maine. Starting out playing drums to classic rock music, his love of wordplay inevitably guided him towards hip hop and theater, both of which he has embraced through his time spent at USM and beyond. With a strong compass for the conscience, Unique Unknown has sought to ease his own chronic pain through art, powerful bonds, and personal expression. Along with his friend Kyler Henningsen, he has formed Family Band Records to bring awareness to the healing power of art and culture. Nate and Matt, I'm so excited to have you here with us tonight, my friends. I'm going to turn it over to you, audience. Buckle up, you're going to have such a great time.
Well. Who do we have here? Some amazing humans ready to enjoy an experience. This is DJ Verse Rapper, I will be freestyling for you, and DJ Matt Perry will be throwing down original beats. This has really saved our lives during this COVID time and brought us to a better place and allowed us to continue exploring our creativity and pushing ourselves and supporting other people. And thank you to everybody who went on tonight. We love you all. You're amazing. But let's get this show on the road. All right. Always start anything with a good hug. Make sure you ask for that hug first. Important. Now, as time turns and we unwind, we find ourselves in the visual contemplation. Are we important when we really are in a wide array of stars that overwhelm us? Do we matter in an existence that is or is not reality? I'm not too sure, but I find myself here and I love it. That's the way, that's the way, that's the way. That's the way, that's the way, that's the way. That's the way I like to do things. That's the way I like to bring my heart. When that light comes through, I need something designed to design my mind to listen to the world and speak about it. Every time you really need a tweet about it, I define myself with who I really am. I put it in a graphic novel just to understand. How can I visualize myself? How can I bring light to the people and throughout? This ain't no one-act competition. We're not here to devise a plan against each other. We're here to love one another like poetry, like music. Now remember, you can't make change happen without action. So you better find that passion. Laugh a little, cause that's what it's all about. Singing out, sing you out, what? I don't know what's going on, but I feel myself inside it all. And I love to show you who I am. So just give me a chance, yeah. Just give me a chance, yeah. It's all about and my stress come out, cause every day I keep thinking about why am I here? I don't know, it's never really clear in a world so big, I just wanna disappear, but I keep on pushing forward with my friends, everybody surround me, there is no end until life ends. God take me now, and I will not prevail, I will not stand. I know what you really want. Love's only as bright as I can be, and if you just make it right, I will be the best thing in your life. Come on, everybody, come on, put your hands up. I know you're here, come on, put your hands up. Love yourself, care about the people around you, because they're so important. They could go at any minute, you do not know. So make sure you show respect and love to every single human. Oh, can you show love? 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 Yeah, show the love, show the love. Show the love, come on, show the love, show the love, show the love, show the love, come on, show the love, show the love, show the love, show the love, come on, and drink water because it's very important for your well-being. I'm not here to tell you what to do, though, because you are your own human and you do what you do. Was that 7 minutes? Oh, cool. Oh, whew. I was like, I'm ready for one more. Was that 7 minutes? Time disappears when we do this. I love it. And I hope you're having a good time. Listen closely. Yeah. Okay. Listen closely. Yeah. Oh, visualize all your or you may falter. You may falter. Find yourself. Share the world. You could fall at any time, but I won't let it happen. You can grab my hand. I will show you all the love I can. Don't give up. No, don't let it go. Don't let it shove. When push comes to shove, you gotta find your gravitational pull. There ain't no passion without love. There ain't no happiness without nothing. So remember that you are here to be a better person. Never get worse. No, can't disperse without looking at it. But you just gotta find it. DJ Matt Perry on the beat. So that was a little taste of DJ verse rapper for you. We wanted to just let loose, give you an opportunity to just forget about yourselves and everybody for a moment and just be in something very special. So we hope we gave that to you. DJ Matt Perry, he makes all these beats and he works with some amazing people. So I just want you to get a little of his voice. So tell him how much this is a great experience.
Well, working with Unique Unknown is incredible. We actually just stumbled across each other working out in the music scene at Flask Lounge in Portland, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And he was rocking a cane, and I've never seen any rapper crush it so hard as this guy. So thank you, man, so much for allowing me to work with you. It's an incredible honor, and thank you to everybody else who's spoken before us. It's really an amazing community here of people contributing some really amazing knowledge.
Yeah, seriously. And a shout out to Madhouse. Shout out to Madhouse, Mad Horse. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you putting this on and giving people the platform. So thank you very much. We love you guys. We will answer all your questions. And remember, we are all Unique Unknown. DJ Rapper out.
I feel like after this past year, Madhouse Theater Company is something that all of us have said more than one time. That made me laugh. Oh, thank you, Nate and Matt. That was so much fun. Friends, you can follow along everything Unique Unknown on social media. On Instagram, it's at We Are All Unique Unknown, just one word. You can also follow Family Band Records on Bandcamp, and we will make sure that link is made available for you. It's familybandrecords.bandcamp.com. They have a new album that is just getting launched, so you want to go check that out. We can also get you, we have DJ Matt Perry's Instagram coming too, so that's going to also all be included. But thank you all so much for joining us. I know we went a little bit long, but some questions did roll in. So